Hello everyone, this is a question and I'm back with my reading log for the month of October. I apologize if my voice sounds weird. I'm getting over a cold and I didn't want to postpone this video for another week, so I apologize for that. The theme for October, obviously, all 40 books that I read were horror or more spooky themed, and these are all first-time reads. These are all books I had in my collection that I hadn't read yet, and I kind of had been saving them up for this month. So I'm going to go through these. Because there's 40 books, I'm going to try to go through these fairly fast, just like normal in these reading logs. If there's anything that you have any questions about, you want more details about, please let me know in the comments and I can go into more detail. So let's get started. Okay, so the way I'm going to do this is I'm actually going to start from the ones I enjoyed the least and move forward through the ones I enjoyed the most. But I'm actually going to do the Hino horror books separately because I did read through all 14 of those, and I'm not going to rank each of those individually. So I'm going to start with the Hino horror books. Okay, so these Hino horror books, so for anyone who is unaware, we got the first 14 of these released in English, but there was actually 16 in Japan, so we didn't get the last two. Volume 15 was solicited to be released in English, and then the publisher went under, so we never got it. So that's why you'll see online, you'll see some sites that show volume 15, and then they'll show it out of stock, but it never actually released. It's like once a solicit happens, most websites won't actually remove the release, so you'll get a lot of releases that it's kind of confusing to tell if a volume actually came out or not. But if you actually do any sort of search for the book, no one actually has it. So that's an easy way to tell. If you don't see any eBay listings or any listings anywhere of there ever being a volume 15, that's a pretty safe way to tell. But that happens with a lot of stuff when companies go under. So these are the covers for the 14 releases that we got. Most of these were in fairly good condition. I got a bundle of about 8 or 9 of these from one person, and then the other ones I all picked up individually. I think I averaged to about $30 a volume, which, if people know how much this set usually goes for, is really good price compared to how much I've seen it sell for. So there is the last volume, 1 through 14. So out of all these volumes, there was really only 4 that I would highly recommend to anybody that's not, if you're a horror collector of manga, then obviously, if you can get the set, go ahead and pick it up. But for the average person, these probably are not going to be for you. And so I'm going to list the 4 that I enjoyed the most. And these are the 4 that I would recommend. And most of these are in the first half of the series. So the very first volume that I read was my favorite in this collection, and that was The Red Snake. So it basically features a boy, and he kind of has, every single member of his family has some weird, bizarre thing going on. So I'm trying to flip through it where I'm not showing anything too explicit. There is a lot of gory imagery in a lot of these books. That's kind of what Hideshi Hino is known for. Gruesome, grotesque kind of drawings. And so this one here is one I highly recommend. We have The Red Snake. Volume 2 is another one that I recommend, and that is The Bug Boy. Has a lot of similar themes in these Hino books of children kind of being ostracized by their parents, by being bullied. There's a lot of that going on throughout all of these volumes. So here we have a boy that turned into a bug and kind of how he deals with that. So we have The Bug Boy. So those are 2 that I highly recommend. Another one that I highly recommend, we have Living Corpse. And these Kokoro books, the paper quality is really good. The translation and the font is not that great. The font especially is pretty bad for the dialogue. And as these books go along, you get a ton more grammatical errors. Like some of the back half of books are just riddled with grammatical errors. And then the 4th one I would recommend is Black Cat. And this one is kind of more of a short story collection, but it follows a cat who kind of goes from place to place and lives with different groups of people, and it kind of shows the disturbing things that he finds with each group of people that he lives with. So it's basically about this cat. I mean, that's a really bad drawing of a cat. So it basically is about kind of him, finding out about humanity and kind of the horrors, like it says here, a cat's eye view of the horrors of mankind. So so those are the 4 that I would recommend for people who, if they're interested, if they can get them for a reasonable price. I don't think anything in this Hino horror collection is like a must read. So if you're not into horror manga, you can pretty safely skip these. If you are into horror manga, then those 4 are the ones that I enjoyed the most. But yeah, that was me reading through all of the 14 Hino horror books. Okay, so this smaller stack here is the stuff that I did not enjoy. So this is stuff I gave 2 stars to on Goodreads. And this stack here is stuff that I'm going to be unhauling, so I will not be keeping this. So first off, we have a 3-volume story, and that is Ghost Diary. So I read through the 3 volumes of this set. And the first 2 volumes of this, I actually didn't mind that much. The first 2 volumes were just average. It's basically a story about a teenage boy whose older sister is an exorcist, and she goes missing. And he basically has to try to figure out what happened to her. And this random witch lady with an eye patch shows up and kind of tries to help him and his friends as they try to find out what happened to his sister. So perfectly fine idea for a story. But in the 3rd volume, what ends up happening and what ends up being what happened with his sister and is so disgusting and just gross and inappropriate that it was so laughably bad what happens at the end that it almost made it worth reading. But don't read this. I'm not going to spoil what happened just because there is some people that probably do want to read this, so I'm not going to spoil what happens in the ending. But the whole crux of what happens, of why he's searching for his sister and why his sister is gone, is so stupid and so gross. So that was Ghost Diary. I will be getting rid of that series. Okay, so next up we have Abitsu. This is one that I've seen around for a while. It's basically a horror about an urban legend with a gothic Lolita, and that she kills people that go by her. She asks them if they would like to have a little sister. And yeah, so that's basically where the story goes. The main character answers that, and she basically tries to become his little sister. I just didn't find the story very interesting. I didn't find it scary. There's some psychological horror stuff going on in here. Just not a very intriguing story for me. So I will be passing this along. Okay, and the last thing in my did not enjoy pile is Abara Complete Deluxe Edition. This is the first thing I've read by this creator. This is the same creator of Blom and Knights of Sidonia, among other things. And I had listened to a Manga-splaining podcast where they had discussed this creator in depth and how much, and you know, they kind of talked about everything of his. And they had talked about Abara as being probably the best book to pick up for someone who hasn't read anything by him, and it's kind of like a good 1-volume kind of introduction into this creator. And I had kind of seen some stuff from this creator before, and I could kind of tell he wasn't going to be for me, and this volume kind of cemented it. It's kind of art over story, which is one, you know, that's kind of not really my type of manga. And I can admire that this artwork is great. You know, it's subjectively great, but I didn't really enjoy it, and I didn't really enjoy the art or the storytelling in this. It didn't really connect with me. The storytelling is just kind of all over the place. I couldn't really follow what was going on in any of the action scenes and any of the storytelling stuff. So this is one that I'll be passing along. I did not connect with this at all. So that was Abara. So this next stack here is all stuff that I thought was good, not great, but enjoyable. And so starting off here, we have a short story collection. This is Presents by Kaneko Anuki. This was released in English by CMX. And so this is out of print. It is a short story collection with the theme being around presents. So it's basically every one of the short stories kind of follows up with the theme of someone getting a present. And yeah, just the artwork in this, as you can tell, is, it's got some very disturbing artwork, some interesting stories, but most of these are fairly short and they're kind of similar, so it got a little repetitive even for it being a short book. But I did enjoy it, and I'm definitely looking forward. I did read another book by this creator. There is some other stuff that she has in English that is out of print. But yeah, just an enjoyable horror short story collection. Next we have Sadako at the End of the World. So this one is less scary, even though it features the main character from The Ring. This is more kind of a slice of life. Basically, they're at the end of the world, and Sadako appears in front of these two girls who are apparently the last two girls left over in this apocalyptic world. And so if you know anything about The Ring, when she appears in front of you, you have a week before you die. So it's basically her spending time with these two kids before the week is over. So it is more cute, slice of life. Nothing spectacular, but I did enjoy it and it was worth a read. So that was Sadako at the End of the World. Next up, we've got two more Hideshi Hino books. So first we have Lullabies from Hell. This has two stories in it, kind of just not too much different than the Hino horror books. There was, I did enjoy these two stories. There's a lot of weird, gross stuff going on in here, but nothing super amazing in this one. And then this one here is a newer release. This is the first kind of in-print or release that's been done in English, and this is by Starfruit Books. This is a very nice release from them. So as it says on the back, this is his first work released in English in over a decade. So definitely support Starfruit Books. I'd love to get more of Hideshi Hino's books released in English. The paper quality is really good here. Just a really nice release. And this is a one-shot story, so this is not a short story collection about a town who is, all the humans get turned into these pigs. So very creepy, very, very gross stuff going on in this one. So I did enjoy this, and I'm looking forward. It looks like Starfruit has some more Hino releases coming our way, so definitely pick those up so we get more stuff of his in English. Next up, we have Haunted House. This is an old Tokyo Pop release, and this is just kind of a blind buy that I found at a book off. I'd never heard of this book or this creator, and after I mentioned it, a fellow YouTuber, Bizarre Individual, said that this is kind of a lesser work and that I should check out some more of this creator's works. So I definitely have added some of those to my wish list, but I did enjoy this book. It's basically about a boy who's kind of just a normal, a air quotes normal boy who lives with a family of kind of goth, more eccentric family members. And so he is kind of just a boring normal kid. And so they kind of like try to sabotage all his attempts at love. So this is more of a comedy book, a comedy one shot, but which it's a little dated, but I found it pretty interesting and pretty funny. There was a lot of funny moments. So if you find this for cheap, definitely check it out. But I am looking forward to reading more by this creator. Next up, we have a short 2-volume series, and that is The Witch's House, The Diary of Ellen. This one here, I had just seen volume 1 randomly at a Barnes & Noble. I didn't know anything about this, didn't know that this is this isn't a newer release, this is a few years old. And then I also didn't know it was only 2 volumes. But yeah, I really enjoyed this one. It was a very weird story. So it basically revolves around this girl who was sick her whole life, and she ends up running into this cat who tells her that he can basically get rid of her sickness and she can be healthy. And all she needs to do is live in this house and basically lure people in to be killed by the house. And as long as she does that, she will continue to her illness will continue to be sick, and she'll basically live forever. So it was just a very interesting story, and it goes in some very weird places in these 2 volumes, especially in this volume 2. And the only thing I didn't know about this is actually a prequel to a mobile video game. So this is actually the story, basically what happens before the game starts. And this game, which is weird timing because, so I just happened, I saw on the back that this is a prequel to a game, and I looked it up online, and this game is like 10 years old, but it just this month got ported to Switch and I think PlayStation. So yeah, so if you are interested and you like this, the game that this is a prequel to just came out. And lastly, in my 3-star pile, we have Killing Stalking Deluxe Edition Book 1. This is actually a manhwa, and this had been described to me as a BL kind of psychological horror book. And now that I've read it, there's no BL in this. So, I mean, the main character is gay, but there's no boys' love in this. It's basically a serial killer doing disturbing things to this boy. So there's no love in this book. So I wouldn't really call it a boys' love, but it definitely has some pretty disturbing themes in here. I did like it enough where I'm going to pick up volume 2 and kind of see where it goes. But lots of trigger warnings in this. This is a very disturbing psychological horror book. I can't really show anything inside because I'm sure I'm going to show something that's kind of disgusting. Nothing too bad here, but it is in full color, and that is why it is at a more expensive price, and it is a fairly thick, almost 2-in-1 style book. So yeah, I had this recommended. I had seen people talk about this a lot. That's why I kind of blind bought it, and I did enjoy it for what it is, and I liked it enough to pick up volume 2, but definitely not for everyone. Okay, so next is my stack of stuff I rated 4 stars on Goodreads. So this is all stuff that I really enjoyed, very good books, stuff I would highly recommend. So a lot of these are actually newer volumes, newer releases. So first off, we have a volume 1, we have Night of the Living Cat. Didn't know too much what to expect from this other than it looked like, obviously cat horror themed. And this was just a really funny book. I really enjoyed this. I highly recommend this one. It has a lot of horror kind of homages to classic horror films in here. So you get a lot of little panels that are reminiscent of classic horror movies. And so the basic theme of this is that instead of a zombie apocalypse, basically all the humans, there's this virus that happens that turns all the humans into cats. So if they come into contact with a cat, if they get rubbed on by a cat, they turn into a cat. So it's more funny than scary. There's not really anything gross. Obviously they're turning into cats. There's nothing graphic or gross in this, but just a really funny series, and I'm looking forward to volume 2. Okay, so next we have another volume 1. This is another new release, and this is from Shonen Jump. This is Dandadan volume 1. This one was something I didn't have any interest in until, sorry I keep mentioning the Manga Splaining podcast on these videos, but all of them loved this volume 1, and what they talked about it made me decide to give it a shot, and I'm glad I did. This was a really funny kind of not, I wouldn't really call it horror, it's more just kind of science fiction, kind of scary. There's a lot of spirits and alien stuff going on. It's basically about a boy who's obsessed with UFOs and a girl who believes in spirits, and they kind of try to outdo each other. Really good artwork, really interesting story. I'm definitely looking forward to seeing where this goes, and yeah, highly recommend Dandadan Volume 1. These next 3 books I'm going to group all together, and these are the 3 H.P. Lovecraft releases by Dark Horse. Not sure how to pronounce the name, Gao Tanabe. So we have At the Mountains of Madness, volumes 1 and 2, and then also his The Hound and Other Stories. So from what I've read online, he actually, there's actually been a lot more of his, he's actually done a lot more of these H.P. Lovecraft stories, and so I think Dark Horse is going to be releasing another one. And so all 3 of these were really good. I have never read actually anything by H.P. Lovecraft, but I do enjoy a bunch of Lovecraft related stuff. Lovecraft Country, the show, is amazing. Very sad that got canceled after 1 season. and I've enjoyed some video games that are based on Lovecraft. But yeah, these are just fantastic artwork, really good adaptations. My one negative that I would have to say about these Dark Horse releases is that the artwork on these are extremely detailed and these books are incredibly small. Like, they really messed up by not having these be released in oversized hardcovers. You really need that to appreciate the artwork on these, because some of these, the panels are so small and they're so detailed, you kind of can't really enjoy the artwork as much as you would if this was in oversized, done in really nice hardcovers. So that would be my only complaint about these, but I will continue to pick these up if they release any more of these Lovecraft stories. Next up, we have another fairly new release, and that is Be Very Afraid of Kaneko Anuki. This is basically just a short story collection collecting a bunch of Anuki's works. And so one of the stories from that Presence volume I showed earlier is actually in this, but this is actually a new release by Kodansha. So please buy this, so hopefully we get more of her works released in English. This has 6 short stories, and all of them, I found this very enjoyable. They were very, the artwork is definitely bizarre, and I love the way that she does eyes. And one of my favorite things about releases like this one actually has a ton of kind of in between each story. It basically has her give a little intro to the story, kind of talks about it. There's lots of kind of stuff in between and at the back that shows like her influence, her favorite movies, things like that, interviews. I love kind of when we get supplemental material in stories like this that kind of give you an overview of the creator's kind of thoughts and their work. So yeah, just a very good horror short story book. Please pick this up so that way we get more of these releases. Okay, so next up we have an old Viz graphic novel. This is Lycanthrope Leo. I knew nothing about this. I blind bought it off Facebook Marketplace just based on the cover, and it was cheap. I didn't know anything about it. And so my one negative about this is that this is just kind of listed as a 1-volume release. It doesn't say volume 1. And then when I read this, when I got to the end, it just ends. And so I found out that this is actually a longer running series, and all we got in English was this 1 volume. So I'll never get any conclusion to the story. But I did enjoy it. The artwork is very nice. It's got that 80s, 90s manga style to it, and it's very detailed. It's basically about a boy in high school who finds out that he can become a werewolf, and that he's from a long line of kind of tribe of the beast, and they're a group that are basically taking over and destroying humanity. And so there's a group of hunters that are against him, that once they find out that he's actually is one of these, they are basically hunting him. So it's basically in this first volume is him finding out who's his allies and who are the people that he's up against. So very interesting. Unfortunately, this is all we got, but I did enjoy this 1 volume of that. Okay, so next up we have this giant omnibus of The Walking Cat, a cat's eye view of the zombie apocalypse. Obviously, this is a take on the Walking Dead zombie series, but I bought this one because I love cats, and I didn't really know if this was gonna be good or bad. But if something has cats or is cats focused, I'm more likely gonna buy it, and I'm really glad I did. This one, the story, it very much reminded me of the Telltale Walking Dead video games, the character interactions, the stuff going on in this. It very much reminded me of those Telltale Walking Dead games, which I enjoyed. And there's a lot of very emotional moments in this. I actually teared up after reading through the first volume. There's a lot of sad stuff in here, a lot of great stuff with humanity. And it basically follows around this cat as he goes through different groups of people and as they're surviving a zombie apocalypse. So, there is some action in here, but it's mainly focused on the human interactions and how this cat kind of connects all of them. So yeah, highly recommended. If you enjoy zombie stuff, if you enjoy, it's nothing too scary. So, if you're worried about the kind of gross horror stuff, there's not a lot of, that's not kind of what this is about. But yeah, definitely check out The Walking Cat. Next up, we have the latest release from Junji Ito by Viz, and that is Black Paradox. This one is less a horror book and more just a disturbing story. Very weird. I really enjoyed how weird this story was. It's basically about a group of people who all want to commit suicide, so they meet online and then they end up going to this forest where they're going to actually commit suicide, and then they end up fighting doppelgangers of themselves and finding this weird element, this weird like balls that they can sell that they can get money from, and that they find in this other world that end up being souls. Just a very weird story. And it's got obviously Junji Ito's fantastic artwork. I love the artwork in this. And yeah, I'm always going to be down for Junji Ito books. He hasn't disappointed me yet, and I really enjoyed this one also. Definitely not in my favorites list of Junji Ito books, but still a very good one. So last up on my 4-star books, we have the 3-volume series Scary Book by Kazuo Umezu. These are released by Dark Horse. And these are out of print. I don't think Dark Horse even has the rights to these anymore, so it would be awesome if once Viz has been releasing a lot of Umezu's work, so hopefully they can get the rights to these and release these 3, because it would be awesome for more people to be able to get these books. The first volumes 1 and 3 have 2 stories in them. Volume 2 is all a 1 story. And these books are definitely a more direct influence to Junji Ito, I would say. These are more like his stories than I would say Hino. Hino's books are more just about, there's a lot more just grotesque imagery, a lot more just disturbing. The stories are almost nursery rhyme style with the Hino books, just with gross stuff on top of them. Whereas these are far more, I think, more adult stories in these Umezu books. And that is kind of a more direct, I would say, influence on Junji Ito and kind of what you see in his stories. Really great artwork. I would say I liked volumes 1 and 3 the best here, so that would be Reflections and Faces. Volume 2 is called Insects, which is weird because it's only 1 story, and the story is about, the theme of the story is butterflies, so it's like, why did they just call it butterflies? But yeah, it's called Insects, and I really enjoyed all 3 of these. If you can find them for cheap, definitely pick them up, but they do go for, some of these go for an expensive price, and you know, hopefully, you know, if you wait, hopefully these get reprinted by Viz, or if Dark Horse does still have the rights, then they reprint them. But these 3 are definitely highly recommended. Okay, and next up we have the one book that I gave 5 stars to on Goodreads, and this is the one I enjoyed the most out of all this month, and that is Witches, the Complete Collection by Daisuke Igarashi. And so I enjoyed this book so much that I got about 100 pages in, and I immediately stopped what I was doing and ordered the creator's other series that I'd never picked up, and that was Children of the Sea. And so that was a book that I've seen a lot of places. I thought the covers looked great, but I never actually grabbed it. After reading the first 100 pages of this, I was like, I have to have that series. I went online and ordered it. That's how much I enjoyed the artwork, and then also the storytelling in this short story collection. So this is pretty much a perfect, in my opinion, short story collection. We have just fantastic, I really love the artwork in all these stories. Obviously they're all connected they're all related to witches. It's not really, I wouldn't really consider this a scary book, so it's not really a horror themed book, but it basically just has to do with witches and humanity. We have stuff that goes on in modern times. There's stories that go on in space that has to have that theme, but it's more just about humanity and kind of their place and how they deal with nature and the earth. As you can see here, I mean, the artwork in this, I just love the artwork. This artwork was really great to me. It has kind of, some of it kind of reminds me of like a little bit more polished kind of Teo Matsumoto style, kind of like number 5. But yeah, highly recommend Witches. Really looking forward to reading Children of the Sea. And yeah, so that was everything I read in the month of October. Okay, so that was everything I read in the month of October. So if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. I do reading logs, manga hauls, And here in the next couple weeks, I will be doing a new collection video. It's been about a year. I've reorganized my manga room. Everything is exactly how I want it now, looking good. And I have just gotten over 2,000 volumes, so I thought it was time for an updated collection video, and I'm looking forward to doing that. So expect that in the next couple weeks. So everyone have a great rest of your day, and thanks for watching.